but some areas are closed.
It's painful.
Conrad Dandridge lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, where a few stations are already in the mid to high $7 range.
You're trying not to drive unless you have to, but I've got kids.
California does import a good amount of its oil on tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. The last tanker to make it through before the shutdown arrived last weekend in Long Beach. Severin Bornstein is the director of UC Berkeley's Energy Institute.
It's possible we could see gas prices shoot up over $8 a gallon if the war drags on.
The average price of a gallon of regular in California is up 2 cents today to $6.13, according to AAA. I'm Jason Nathanson.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted, it works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
New data from ADP Research shows U.S. private employers added 109,000 jobs in April, the strongest monthly gain in over a year. Hiring was broad across services, construction, and manufacturing, with healthcare leading growth. Small and large businesses drove most gains, while mid-sized firms lagged. Wage growth for job changers held steady, even as economists note a cooling but still solid labor market. Elon Musk is marking the end of his SEC lawsuit with a $1.5 million settlement.
Tech billionaire settled the lawsuit, which accused him of failing to properly disclose stock he was amassing in Twitter in violation of securities laws. According to an SEC legal filing, Musk consented to the settlement, quote, without admitting or denying the allegations, and it permanently restrains and enjoins his trust from violating the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Musk is also facing a class action civil suit filed in California on behalf of Twitter shareholders. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Kids across America are seeing a big change in gym class as President Trump has brought back the Presidential Fitness Test Award.
That's the one where students try different activities like running or sit-ups and stretching to earn a special fitness badge. The idea is to help kids stay active, have fun, and set some personal goals. Teachers say the new version will be more encouraging and less stressful than those pull-ups of years past, focusing on doing your best instead of being the fastest or the strongest. I'm Monica Nelson.
I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner towing. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong, Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
Hello, folks. Welcome back once again to the Common Sense Conservatives. It's Wednesday, and here we are. Todd McKinley in the state, soon to have no Democratic members of Congress after redistricting efforts there. Memphis being wiped off the mat. And I'm sorry, Todd, nothing against you or Tennessee. But again, it's an immoral practice of gerrymandering, whether it's Democrats or Republicans to do it. And we've got John Grosvenor up there in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. He's got some kind of psychedelic nightclub light flashing behind his screen there. I'm not sure what that's all about, but I'm sure that's going to distract us during this stream. So, Todd, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. The guest we had on last week, Zane Vanover, he won the mayor's race last night with 8,642 votes, or 60.34% of the vote, to his opponent's 39.66%. So Zane Vanover, the right candidate, won. And of course, we had him on as a guest. Also last week, Michael French, a person who we've had on, I think, a couple years ago, who ran for mayor of New Braunfels, Texas, won his race recently for mayor of New Braunfels, beating the incumbent, but he didn't get the, quote, majority of the votes for some reason. He was slightly shy of getting majority. He got a plurality, 49 point something percent. But the city's code says he must get a majority of the votes. So I think there's going to be a runoff. I don't know what the issue there. Maybe we'll have him on as a guest next week to kind of explain that. But anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there that the guest last week won his mayor's race.
So our guest last week who won, is that pretty much a guarantee now? And it's pretty much a conservative district, so he's going to be the mayor?
Yeah, there's no Democrat. There's no opposition. It's basically a foregone conclusion in August. He'll win 100% of the vote. It'll be done.
All right. Well, congratulations to him. That's fantastic news for him. Yep. And your troll, did your troll have anything to say?
He did not have anything to say. No. His school board candidate won, which is fine. That is what it is. But his mayoral candidate did not win. So that's good.
Well, that's a shame. That's how it goes in politics sometimes. John, how are things in New Hampshire tonight?
Seems like things are normal up here in New Hampshire. We're still enjoying our freedom, living the dream here in the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. I did get some sort of article about a guy in New Hampshire. I always thought the most sane people lived in New Hampshire, but we found one cuckoo nut. Apparently somebody in New Hampshire was threatening the president of the United States. Can you imagine working for the FAA?
He works for the FAA and he threatened the president?
Yeah, apparently. I didn't get to read the whole article or anything. I got kind of just the gist of it. But, it kind of blows me away because, we had this issue down there in D.C. Then here, the day after or so? Right. Somebody else, there was a shooting just after J.D. Vance, his motorcade went by, and there was somebody discovered with a weapon, and he was approached by Secret Service and decided to run. That chase led to the end of his existence, unfortunately for him, but he may have brought that on himself. I think he may have been the architect of his own demise there. And then you start getting news reports about somebody here in New Hampshire threatening or making threatening statements about the president. This is getting to be an awful trend.
Yeah, that was going to lead with that story. I'm a little confused here because you're saying there was this guy threatened Vance and was shot because we had yesterday someone that shot and has been arrested now and charged. So I'm a little confused. Is that this guy's from Texas, the one I'm talking about?
I'm not sure where this other guy was from in D.C. I know I got the story that
he's from
was
Texas,
on the National Mall. That guy.
Yeah, as a Texas man was charged today with the shooting near the monument just after J.D. Vance passed. Prosecutors identified the suspect as Michael Marks. There's a good commie name. 45 of Midland, Texas, oil country there. That would be the Bush family area. Documents filed in U.S. District Court in D.C. include moment-by-moment photographs of what happened. At 3:38, the motorcade was carrying the vice president, leaving the White House, passing through 15th Street and Independence Avenue. Minutes later, a plainclothes U.S. Secret Service agent near the area noticed a man who authorities later identified as Marks wearing a gray shirt and black pants. He appeared to be hiding a handgun in his waistband. The Secret Service agent requested help, and uniformed Secret Service officers soon saw Marks walking along the path of the motorcade. He walked up to an intersection where bystanders gathered the crosswalk. The officers began getting out of the car as bystanders crossed the streets. The officers gave verbal commands to Marks, who began running. As officers pursued, Marks reached for his waistband to draw his gun. Marks reached the sidewalk on the other side of the street, turned, and fired towards one of the officers, as well as the direction of the juvenile passerby. Wow. After he fired, authorities said the passerby, whose age was not given, clutched his leg. The boy's family realized he'd been shot. Secret Service officers fired back at Marks, striking him left hand, left arm, and abdomen. He collapsed. Wow. Investigators would find a Sig Sauer P365 near where he was laying. Officers said Marks spit on them as they tried to give him first aid. On the back of the ambulance, he said something to the effect of "F the White House, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me." Marks faces charge of assaulting federal officers with a dangerous weapon, using and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence, and unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Here we go once again, a felon with a gun. How does this happen? I have the hardest damn time getting a firearm legally, and I've never committed jaywalking. He was found guilty of trafficking illegal drugs in Florida in 2011, according to an affidavit. My goodness, was that the one you were referring to? He shot a kid.
That's him. Yeah, there was a kid, about 9-year-old, got shot, injured, but not seriously wounded.
No, he got shot though. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's discouraging when you hear a 9-year-old kid minding his own business with his parents, presumably, and he gets hit by a bullet because this guy's a jackwagon.
Well, once again, which I think you were getting to, John, is the point that the Democrats have been violent, disgusting human beings for the past 15 or 20 years, ever since Barack Hussein Obama stole the White House in 2008. And ever since then, they've been vile, repulsive human beings, and they keep causing these problems. They're lunatics, keep trying to murder Republicans and conservatives. It's absolutely insane. It's time to just start locking these clowns up every time that they threaten violence. You know, we've got James Comey now indicted for threatening the life of the president of the United States, and he's acting like he's innocent. I hope he spends the rest of his natural life in prison.
Yeah, he earned it, I think. I'm not sure on that one, to be honest. I know there were other charges, and I didn't go through and read all the charges, but they did get him on the whole seashell incident with the 8647. And something tells me he's going to get off on that on freedom of speech on a technicality. The rest of the charges I'm not sure about, but this one gentleman here I was telling you about earlier is only 35 years old, works for the Federal Aviation Administration, and he's on his government computer making threatening statements about the President of the United States. So he has been arrested and charged, according to, what is it, District of New Hampshire? Where do I get this from?
Not only are these people mentally unstable, they were just plain stupid. Your government computer, you have to click on, it says, no pornography, no gambling, no personal business.
The most monitored computer you're going to be on.
This
Yes.
network is monitored 24 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, what kind of idiot does that? It shows you how stupid these people are.
And sadly enough, he was from Nashua, New Hampshire.
The sad part about all of this, John, is that there are actually people in this country, about 1/3 of this country, who support this lunacy. And these people, I mean, I'll tell you what, a lot of them threaten to move to Canada. Please move to Canada.
Yeah, I'm sure Canada wants them.
Actually, the current Canadian government probably would love to have them, but most Canadians would not want them. This is beyond the pale what's happening here. From the congressional baseball practice to the attempted murder of Rand Paul, to the assassination attempts on President Trump, on Lee Zeldin. The list goes on and on and on. Now, J.D. Vance, these people are, look.
Well, we can't really say J.D. Vance, a handgun, a motorcade. I mean, I'm not sure if that was his intentions, but he was open carrying in D.C. and he was being approached by law enforcement who identified themselves and ran. And you said spit on him after being wounded when they tried to assist him and save his life. And they start spitting on him. I mean, what is wrong with people like this? Obviously, he had ill will, ill intentions, whether it was J.D. Vance or he was just meandering around and waiting for some congressman to come walking by. Because members of Congress will go down on the National Mall, they might see activity out there, see a group of people and say, hey, I'm going to go find out what's going on. And they have done that. So I don't know what his true, nobody knows what his true intentions were, but they couldn't have been good.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to a Sunday school session. I mean, he's a convicted felon. First off, it's illegal for him to have a firearm. Second, you can't have a concealed carry in the District of Columbia. In fact, even having a firearm in the District of Columbia is virtually impossible. Where's everybody keep going? I'm all alone now, all by myself. Hello.
We had a slight hiccup in the connection. So you froze up for a second there and everything was silent. I was getting ready to go into panic mode.
The only one here. You disappeared and Todd's been gone for a bit. He stepped away. So that's all right. I guess I'll have to carry the water myself tonight, but glad to see you back there. No, but I mean, you can't conceal carry in D.C. It's almost impossible to have a firearm in D.C. Certainly a convicted felon's not allowed to have a firearm. That's against the law. And see, once again, these idiots walking around like they got a gat, like they're playing, what's that that game? Anyway, that stupid video game.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of it now.
Yeah. Anyway, with the pimps and the hookers and the gangsters. Yeah. No, it's
Grand Theft.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, that's the one. Grand Theft Auto. I mean, this is real life. This is insanity, and the media is barely talking about this. Barely. At least the Washington Post actually covered the story. I was a bit surprised about that, but this is dangerous. What is happening in this country and people? And look, to be fair, Democrats have also been attacked. Gabby Giffords was shot in Arizona several years ago, and others were shot out there, as well as these lunatics who beat or murdered the Democratic legislators in Minnesota. But none of that is being fomented by Republicans. Republicans, conservatives don't call for the assault or attack or murder or demonize or dehumanize their opponents. Only the Democrats, the leftists, are doing this, demonizing their opponents in the most vile, repulsive language. We need to deport all of them, even if they're native born. We could send them somewhere. I mean, can't send them to Gitmo, but maybe, I don't know, St. Helena. That might be a good spot for him. It was good for Napoleon.
Yeah, I know that's not right. When you got people or elected officials that make these bold statements, you remember Biden with the whole, we need a bullseye on his back. That was
we got to take him out. That's what he said.
Right?
He said we got to take him out. And then days later, they tried to murder him.
Yeah, and these are things that can be easily written on. This is the problem with freedom of speech, because these things can be written off. Oh, it was figuratively speaking. I mean, we got to figure out better strategies in our campaigns.
No. Menacing and threats are not freedom of speach. Freedom of speech is not absolute. You can't walk in a theater and yell fire. That's against the law.
Right. No, you're right.
You cannot put 8647 down and expect not to face the consequences. It is long overdue that these clowns actually pay a price for their violent behavior, because what they do, it's no different than South Africa, where these jackasses sing this song, Kill the Boer, which means murder the white farmer. And we find over 3,000 white farmers, their family members, children, their spouses, horribly murdered in the most gruesome fashion, tortured before they're murdered, because they're being inspired by politicians who we're told it's just a liberation song. Well, when Democrats call for taking out the president, including the former president of the United States, call for taking out his political opponent, that should be a jail sentence, minimum. They're all worried about Epstein. How about we put these criminals in jail, threaten the life of the president of the United States? I mean, I'm all for that. How about that, Todd? What do you say?
Yeah, I think if you put the president's life in jeopardy, absolutely, for sure. And especially the people who've gotten a lot of these protests over the past several years spun up, lying to them, and of course stoking hate and division that have led to a lot of people's deaths, and not to mention how much damage, to the tune of billions of dollars in damage as a result of them screaming fire in a crowded theater, as you just mentioned a minute ago.
Well, not just that, the damage that these idiots have done to our national reputation, what they've done to our foreign policy, what they've done for America's standing in the world. It's been around. I mean, look, I thought it couldn't get worse than Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, boy, was I wrong at damaging our national reputation. Joe Biden damaged it on steroids. He showed us to be feckless, weak, incompetent, cowardly. And I thought that Obama, hiding behind the skirts of the Brits and French to attack Libya was embarrassing. But Biden was even more embarrassing. The damage, the carnage they've caused, and the idiocy, the morons in Congress like Hakeem Jeffries, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Presley, all these fools, absolute fools who couldn't walk and chew gum. I mean, it's like Barack Hussein Obama. These 56 states. When do we add 6 more states? What did I miss? Did I get the wrong civics class? Or Ilhan Omar in World War 11.
What? Yeah, 11.
World War 11. Yeah, and she's sitting going, my opponents are dim-witted, with the venom coming out of her vile mouth. They're dim-witted and low IQ. Hey, sweetheart, it's not World War 11. It's called a Roman numeral. I realize you come from Somalia and you don't have the Roman script in Somalia because the Romans got stopped by the swamps in Sudan. They didn't quite take Somalia. So I know that didn't happen, but maybe you should learn, since you're here in the land of the free, learn English properly and learn what Roman numerals are because, hey, sweetheart, we actually use them. We actually use them.
You raise a good point, though. If she doesn't understand the simple thing like Roman numerals and it was World War II, obviously she should have known there was no World War 11 to begin with. It had to be. It should be a simple deduction, right? So you would think if she can't understand the basics, how is she making big decisions for her constituents?
Well, she's not making big decisions. She's just got a big mouth. That's the difference here. There's no big decisions being made by Ilhan Omar. She just has a big mouth. And she doesn't have the biggest mouth. The worst one is Rashida Tlaib. That is a vile, repulsive human being, to say the very least.
Well, apparently her idea of making big decisions is leading her Somalian folks over there to rip off the United States government. You did see that there's some committee in Minnesota that voted not to indict her for subpoena her for investigation.
Look, I don't know. Her district is 59% white. Only about 12,000 Somalis actually vote in her district. Shows you there are a lot of stupid people in Minneapolis.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, but she had to be the first this, and this, hyphen. And she's not the first crook in Congress, that's for sure, or the first one to steal millions of dollars. Nancy Pelosi's got her beat for sure on that. But she is the first, multi-hyphened, person to, I guess, represent that district. I don't know. Maybe that's what they were going for.
Well, that's not a qualification. Your skin color, your gender is not a qualification. Your competency, your vision, your ability to lead, your ability to reason, those are things to consider. I mean, if it was just down to gender and skin color and just down to likability, well, then my friend Groot here would be a member of Congress.
Groot. I am Groot.
Hey, a little slit in his back and operated like he'd be the perfect fit,
if I could put a finger in the back of this, it'd be just like Joe Biden, man. I could just operate him.
Yeah, just an auto pin. That's all he needs, an auto pin.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, but seriously, this is dangerous. Well, let's shift gears a little bit from the Secret Service activity to Todd. Have you thought about what you want to do with your share of the enriched uranium? Trump says we're getting the enriched uranium from Iran. I want just 1 kg, 1 kilogram. I'll use it at home here to and have a good time. So I mean, you got any plans with your uranium?
No, I'd certainly sell it. We have some nuclear power plants or some folks here who could do some, use it for some nuclear fuels. I'd make a little bit of money off of it. I think that's what I would do.
Well, today he told reporters, we're going to get it. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It was a PBS interview. Trump gave PBS an interview. He said, we're going to get it, man.
Was it an exclusive interview with PBS?
Wow.
He probably realized since he cut their funding, they need somebody like him to come in and give them a little interview from time to time, make sure they can stay afloat on their own. Kind of coach them along, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, right?
Maybe if they privatize PBS, he might like it. So the ceasefire that isn't, Todd, are you paying attention to that? The ceasefire that isn't. We've seen the Iranians continually break the ceasefire, including attacking the UAE the other day. And we've even broken the ceasefire, even though the government says we haven't. We shot and sank 6 small Iranian boats when they attacked tankers. And now, today, we had a jet. We had a jet that went after the tanker that was approaching an Iranian port. The Iranian flagged crude oil tanker MT Hasna was en route to an Iranian port despite the blockade. And so we fired on it. I don't know if we sank it, but we fired on it. At 9 a.m., after the crew failed to heed U.S. warnings, aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln dispatched an F-18 fighter to stop the vessel. The jet fired a series of shots from its 20-millimeter cannon to disable the tanker's rudder, and the Hansa has since halted its course towards Iran. So there you go. They're dead in the water, and we got F-18s firing at them. I mean, I'm thinking Tom Cruise, Top Gun, 1980s. I mean, this
right. Yeah, I mean, you can think about it, man. How precision those fighters are, be able to come right in there move them pretty quick, and just basically get a ship that's also moving but much slower. I mean, amazing, and probably with precision fire for sure.
Well, no doubt about that. Not only did they just disable it so it couldn't move because you can't go anywhere without a rudder, they didn't sink it. They could have sank it. They didn't. Who knows if it had any oil in it, could have been an ecological disaster. So that was pretty prudent of the pilot. So that guy, I don't know, pretty impressive.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree with you. And of course, enforcing a legal blockade for sure. My thing is, I'd love to see this thing come to fruition. Be ended as soon as possible. I'd love to see Iran become a true republic. That's going to take many generations for sure. But let's get this to some sort of end where America and of course the world can ensure that the safe travel through the Straits of Hormuz, and at the same time we can get energy prices trending downward. I think that's probably the best idea, best option.
Well, I've talked about this in many programs and interviews I've given. We say that we have a ceasefire, but I guess you can equivocate because the war, although Trump said it's over, it can't be over because we're executing a blockade, which is an act of war. And so I don't know how we can say the war's over. We may have stopped shooting, although today we found out that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, but this time they weren't firing at Iranian military. They were firing at an Iranian-flagged oil tanker. So I don't know what it's going to cost them to get a new rudder, but in the meantime, they're just going to be able to sit right out there in the Strait of Hormuz and not be able to go anywhere except where the waves carry them. John, what do you think of that? How far the waves carry them? That was definitely the meant of the seven seas once we were the Iranian Navy.
Yeah, floating at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. That's one of the favorite songs I did. But so we actually fired on a oil tanker. I don't know that we've ever done that before. Since the Second World War, I should say. Maybe the Second World War we did it, but not since then. It's strange. Hey guys, did you know that D.C., the District of Columbia, had 20,000 more tourists in 2025 than the previous year, generating an extra $2.4 billion in revenue? It's amazing what rounding up the riffraff and criminals and executing safe policies in the District of Columbia will do. 27.2 million visitors from this past year. That's amazing.
Yeah, and when I was up there in D.C. last week, watching the National Guard walk around in teams of 4, it was generally E4 and below, and of course maybe an NCO, E5, E6, sometimes an E7, leading these teams around, and of course basically an additional force on the streets and places where crime would typically flourish. Nothing on the streets. People were not sitting on the sidewalks, none of that. You didn't have shopkeepers that were worried about people coming in and shoplifting. And I was at CVS and talking to the security there, and they're like, and I was just like, well, how's business? They're like, hey, business is actually doing a heck of a lot better. And in fact, thefts from our store is way down by thousands of dollars every month because of this.
Well, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions.
Over the course of a period of
business,
time.
maybe it's that much. But while the number of visitors is up, the number of international visitors declined. Of course, Trump has made more stringent visa requirements for many countries, but the decline in visitors dropped by about 4%. So 2.1 million international visitors to the district. And the largest countries in order were Canada, India, the United Kingdom, Germany, China, France, Mexico, South Korea, Italy, Spain, Brazil, Australia, and Japan. Surprised Japan wasn't higher. Tourists spent $11.9 billion. Wow. That led to $2.4 billion in tax revenue. That's just good news for the city. But I'm a little confused. Muriel Bow Wow Bowser, who's the mayor of the district, said, "We live in the best and most beautiful city in the world." I don't know about that. With fantastic restaurants and hotels, great parks, and a public transit system that takes you all over the city and region. Yeah, for a king's ransom. She said, "We had some great events last year, like World Pride." Okay, I guess there's a big gay event there. I didn't know about that.
Let's lead with that.
I must have missed my notification for Gay Pride, World Pride there. I missed that one. And the FIFA Club World Cup. Okay, I thought she said FIFA World Cup. FIFA World Cup is this year, but the Club World Cup. And this, I didn't even know that happened in DC. And this summer we have a full lineup of America 250 events. Yeah, I think that this year will probably break all records for DC with visitors because it's America's 250th anniversary. Although you wouldn't know it, most people are clueless. I walk around with hats saying 250 and people looking like I'm crazy. And check out this one. I got the latest 250 collection. I know the viewers or the listeners can't hear us on the radio, but this is pretty cool. What do you think there, John? How you like that hat?
I am digging that hat, man. Liberty Bell and everything, huh? United States of America. I can't read the bottom there. What's the bottom?
250th anniversary.
Oh, 250th. Yep, that's it. Yep.
And what I like is that you're not supposed to use the flag, but this isn't the flag. These are just the symbols of the flag. No flag looks like this, even though the colors match. And on the side, it's embroidered 1776 to 2026, 250 years. So that's pretty cool. But I mean, most people just completely clueless that we have a 250th anniversary. And then they've got this one here. But these were a pretty good deal. I got these puppies for like $10.99. That's a pretty darn good deal for a hat these days. America 250. Yeah. So that's a little
Made in
borderline.
America,
It's not
I hope,
quite-
right?
What's that?
Made in America, I hope, right?
Well, at $10.99,
Don't ask him that.
You must be kidding yourself.
You
must be
can
kidding
lie.
yourself.
Listen, Trump has only been there for just over a year now. We're not quite there yet on Made in America.
Yeah,
We're getting there, though.
You're not getting your hat for $10.99 made in America. Maybe $49.99, but not $10.99. Just ain't gonna happen.
Trump was talking it up here recently about we are bringing industry back to North Carolina. Furniture is going to be made in North Carolina once again. The best furniture ever made in the world in North Carolina. It was great to listen to him speak.
Yeah, but
saying it and it happening are two different things. So it takes
but hey,
time.
you know what? He's getting there.
It takes time. All right, so let's shift gears again here to talk about another topic. This war inside the MAGA community, this dispute over Israel, where you have traitors betraying the MAGA movement. Now, that depends on you where you sit on the fence. You have the Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson's and what's Candace Owens? I say Candace Owens. Sorry, what's the other one there?
Well, let's see. The Hodge twins, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes,
Megyn Kelly. You have all of them. No, that crowd that
Piers Morgan was getting that way too, isn't he?
Think that we should abandon Israel, and then you've got true conservatives who are just shaking their head and are apoplectic about the behavior of these people. So, Todd, is the MAGA base actually fracturing along these Israel lines, or is it just a bunch of hype in the media?
You know, I don't know. I think people have probably are just coming to terms with the Israel question here, as far as which side do they stand here. You know, I mean, you can support Israel all day long, but you don't necessarily have to support their government. You can support their right to exist. You can support the right to the Jewish people to exist, but not necessarily support their government. I can see both sides of that. You know, I don't know as far as MAGA being, you know, fractured or anything like that. I think MAGA had a group of core believers, if you will, and I think a lot of them are still there. And I think on the other hand, you had a lot of people who were opportunists who saw, you know, the president has great coattails. Let me get on board. And all of a sudden, whenever those coattails are a little bit shorter, they start jumping off. I think maybe you're seeing a lot of that. The opportunists are fleeing, perhaps.
Well, for me, I think the problem is this false narrative that's being spread by these people. So in Florida, a farm country, there was a long shot Republican candidate who was running for governor selling $40 T-shirts. Sounds like a grifter to me. That say no American should die for Israel, and nobody should vote for an idiot that has T-shirts for $40 to say that.
Yeah, right. That's pretty good, right? Makes sense.
Yeah. And Laura Loomer, who's gotten a lot of prominence, she's out there. You know, she's taking on the right-wing podcasters who are critical of Israel. So it's, you know, people are saying that this thing is going both ways. I really don't know. I'm not impressed by the behavior of some of these media influencers. Their behavior has been very, very, I think, disloyal to the MAGA movement. And not speaking as a MAGA movement member, but I think they've been very disloyal. Listen, you know, if you throw your toys out of the crib because your party or your candidate disagrees with you on one issue, well, then you're just not an adult. I mean, look, I don't agree with Trump's tariffs. I agree with the concept of tariffs, but the just, you know, boom, way that they dumped it out there, I thought was disastrous from a standpoint that it just gave us really bad internet.
Oh, lost the colonel there?
No, I think we lost the connection. I'm here.
There we go. There he is.
That was the second time it hicked up. I do not know what's going on with technology. I think it's more than what. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's probably, you know, it's probably the leftists have tapped into the fiber line and they're just trying to disrupt this. You know?
I can see him on the pole out there.
You can't stop the signal. They can try it. You know, Tom McDonald said it best. You can't cancel all of us, but you're welcome to try.
That's right.
Anyway, so yeah, it's just very disturbing here. You don't throw your toys out of the crib just because you disagree with one issue. Again, I didn't agree with the president on that. I also don't agree with some of the outlandish, bombastic things he says. But you don't see me abandoning the president or abandoning the conservative cause just because I don't agree with everything the president says. Quite frankly, if you agree with everything somebody says, you're really not much more than a sycophant in many cases.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Sycophants are useless in my book, and sycophants are usually cowardice type people. So I have no use for any sycophant whatsoever. If you can't stand on your own or disagree from time to time, no use for you. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need fanboys. We need real people to discuss real issues.
I think the issue that you're talking about, Chris, is more than Israel. You know, I hear these things about Palantir. I'm sure you're familiar with Palantir. Started in 2003, 2003, just after 9/11. Data collection agency, not a surveillance agency. But you're getting all these conspiracy theories and stuff about, well, Trump is giving no big contract to Palantir for immigrations and stuff like that. So Trump wants to use Palantir to help him fight immigration. So we voted for Trump to eliminate the immigration issues and deport people that are here illegally. And so Trump now is saying, well, Palantir's got some pretty good software where we can track illegal immigrants and stuff like that. It'll make our jobs easier to get these immigrants out of the country. And so he's doing what we asked him to do, but now he's a bad guy because he's using Palantir, and Palantir is a surveillance company that's going to surveil all of Americans, and we're all going to be spied about. These guys are nuts.
We don't
listen
need
to this nonsense.
We don't need Palantir. The Patriot Act gave the government the ability to spy on Americans.
Yeah.
They gave the ability to look in libraries and check our loan records. They have no business without a warrant doing that. But the Patriot Act went overboard and it surrendered a lot of our liberties. And quite frankly, much of the Patriot Act is unconstitutional.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, where's the left on this? They were nowhere when Obama was using the Patriot Act to spy on New York Times reporters or to oppress Patriot, the Tea Party patriots, Lois Lerner, and all that nonsense.
You're hitting on something, because this is what ticks me off, because 25 years ago, these are the things we were saying when they were trying to pass the Patriot Act. Are we really going to let them get away with this? Are we really going to do this? And what I got for feedback was, what are you going to do? We've been attacked. We got to do something. It's like you're sacrificing rights.
Yeah.
In order to honestly, guys, I mean, you say that, but and from my perspective, I don't recall a lot of pushback from people because this thing was passed It was passed in like 5 minutes. There was virtually no public debate about this.
There was none.
Right.
It came afterwards. But before, I mean, because this thing they literally passed it like almost instantaneously. It was
all the sunset provisions of the Patriot Act have passed, and they've managed to, before they all passed, they managed to decide what they wanted to keep, and they have codified it. So we still have a lot of surveillance laws and things like that are still violating our rights, as you described, Chris. Now they're just standard. They're there all the time, and nobody's challenging it.
True. But hey, for folks tonight, you're listening to WSMN, the Common Sense Conservatives, every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m., 1590 on your AM dial in Nashua, New Hampshire. And if you got skip wave bouncing across the atmosphere there, you can catch it elsewhere, or on 95.3 on your FM dial. For those of you who are not fortunate enough to live in New Hampshire, the Granite State, a lovely place. If you're unable to live there, well, you can catch us on, as Todd says, the interwebs. You can get us on Facebook and our YouTube channels. And we are welcome to have folks from around the world join us. We have a lot of folks who join us from South Africa who follow me over my audience. And we do appreciate the folks who pay attention to the program. But yeah, no, it's really the Patriot Act and what the government has done. Even without the Patriot Act, I mean, the serial violations of the First Amendment by the Biden regime in cajoling, coercing, or colluding with tech firms to silence people who spoke the truth because it was inconvenient. The cover-ups by the Biden regime, the lies, the fake data they put out. Public enemy number one after Joe Biden would be, of course, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci. But yeah, I don't want to get in that rabbit hole. We can come back later on. But I did want to talk about something that happened today. And, you know, it's I don't want to say heroes, because he's not a hero, but he's definitely an entrepreneurial icon and a titan of American business and a media mogul. The passing of Ted Turner at the age of 87 today, Todd. That is, I think, a huge thing. I mean, you know, in the recent past, we've lost Chuck Norris, which shocked a lot of us. We've lost Betty White, Bob Newhart. So many public figures have been, you know, from previous generations that are one or two generations ahead of us are just disappearing from the scene. It's just the nature of life. But the passing of Ted Turner today, I think, is kind of a big deal. This guy, whether you like CNN or not, he completely revolutionized the news industry. There would be no Al Jazeera today, no Fox News if it wasn't for Ted Turner, and there'd be no cats on Todd's desk if it wasn't for that cat walking across the Yeah, but the passing of Ted Turner at the age of 87 after he reported about 8 years ago that he had this tragic malady which affected his brain. But any thoughts on Ted Turner, Todd?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You think about the 24-hour news cycle, and Fox News and all these other stations, and of course network news that got on board. You wouldn't have had that, had it not been for him setting up CNN early on in the 80s, and of course in the 90s with the Gulf War. Seeing that you could bring news to the masses instantaneously. Amazing, idealism, if you will. He had a great idea, and of course now with social media and of course instantaneous news, he had a vision, and we're kind of living it in a lot of ways. And of course, this cat is living the 24-hour news cycle now, as he's the center of attention at the moment.
He definitely is. John, any thoughts on Ted Turner?
Yeah, he did live a good full life. He's brought, like you said, he's brought a lot to the entertainment industry, the news industry. If I remember correctly, he was AMC, Turner Networks, right?
Yeah.
And Turner
TNT,
Classics. And,
WTBS, Cartoon Network, Turner Classic Movies, TCM.
yeah, he definitely expanded on cable television, didn't he?
He did indeed. So Ted Turner had a very horrible childhood. His father was a monster and an alcoholic who offed himself eventually. When he was 23 years of age, Ted Turner took over his father's billboard business, which apparently was the largest billboard business in the South. And he took that, and then he bought a distressed television station in Atlanta that was not doing very well. By the way, Ted Turner was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I always thought he was from the Deep South to begin with, but he's actually an Ohio boy. But he bought this television station, and he started turning it around by playing reruns of television shows, which you've all become familiar with on TBS and like WGN out of Chicago. They'll play all these sitcoms and these shows on reruns, and got them for a song probably for the rights to rebroadcast them. And that created the first superstation, but it didn't really become a superstation until the late 70s, around 77, I think it was, when he established a satellite link up to a satellite and then made it available to all the cable networks, and they added the channel. I don't think TBS even charged them beyond their networks. And as a consequence, everybody in the country knew who WTBS was. We all knew about it, kind of like WGN in Chicago, where these were the superstations. And from there, he parlayed that money into, and the reason he started the CNN was because he would get home from work at 6:40 or 7 o'clock at night, and he missed the news because it's from 5 to 30, 5:30 or 6:30. So the news is over, network news. And he's like, I always miss the news. I didn't know what's going on. He said, I bet there's a lot of people like me that miss the news. So he said, why not? Let's have the news 24 hours a day. That way, if you come home, you miss the start, you can go to the next half hour, next hour. And that's what started CNN. And CNN in the early days was truly amazing. I mean, they broke the news about Reagan being shot, the assassination attempt. They then also had the Challenger coverage in '86 when the Challenger blew up, and they had the best coverage. I watched CNN from Germany, cleaning my M16 in the arms room. And then the real explosion for CNN, when they were still a reliable news network, was the Gulf War, as Todd alluded to a few moments ago. That coverage there was just amazing. They were the only ones on the ground everywhere. Remember Bernard Shaw? I'm hiding under the table. Peter Arnett's so brave. Look at Peter. He's got his head out the window. All I remember from the Gulf War, other than getting out of there, is what a coward Bernard Shaw was. That's what I remember. Anyway, but CNN, and then of course he had CNN International, Headline News, which was CNN number 2 initially. He also was a philanthropist. He promised to give the United Nations $1 billion, and he started that. But then his stock cratered because the Time Warner AOL merger was a disaster, and they lost $99 billion of value like in 1 year.
Wow.
And so he had a lot of paper value. He had like $7.5 billion, and he lost a lot of that. But before he lost it, he cashed a lot of money in. He bought all this land, became the largest single private owner of land in the country, followed only by the U.S. government for land. He was no longer the top guy. John Malone surpassed him later on. But he was the largest landowner. And he also almost single-handedly saved the American bison. You know, he has 51,000 head of bison, and he started this whole chain of restaurants. There's like 40 of them now that sell bison meat, but there's 51,000 bison on his properties around the country, and he also had some property overseas. He dated famously and then married Jane Fonda, and apparently, you know, he said just recently that he was only in love twice. He loved people, but And he had 3 wives, but he was only in love twice in his life, even though he dated a lot of women. And she was one. Apparently, he was heartbroken. They didn't console it when they broke up, but she couldn't deal with it because he was always gone, always working here or there, all the travel. She didn't like it, so they broke up. They stayed in contact, but they weren't always civil towards the end. But I mean, look, I could see not being civil towards Jane Fonda. She needs an enemy.
Right.
But,
Yeah, for sure.
I get that, but you know, so he was, I said, a philanthropist, and he also, remember, he's the guy that staged the Goodwill Games when the Olympics were canceled in the early 1980s. He also bought the Atlanta Braves, a perennial loser, and turned them into the best team in baseball year after year. And the Atlanta Hawks, a perennial loser. I think they're still a perennial loser.
Right.
But most of his empire was sold off except for his properties many, many years ago. But in the end, after paying down his final payment, that $1 billion promised to the United Nations, he had just under $1 billion. I feel so bad for the guy. He was almost a billionaire.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you know, it's funny you say that, because it was the same thing with J.P. Morgan, and you know, people thought he was more wealthy than he was when he died, but he was a man who understand how to utilize his money and make it work for him, as opposed to he who has the most toys at the end wins. You know, and it sounds like Turner was the same way. He was more interested in using his money and making it more beneficial than just hoarding it.
Well, the reason his fortune was much smaller is because the crash of the stock. It was virtually worthless. So he lost paper out. So that's the thing. You're always like, you're worth this. You're not worth anything unless somebody's willing to pay for it. Unless you got money in the bank or gold buried in a vault somewhere, you're not worth anything, you know, or you've got oil in the ground that you can sell and people buy it. But the thing is that, so a lot of his fortune went away, but he still died a very wealthy man at the age of 87. And I mean, you don't think about it. You know, I didn't even think that Ted Turner was 87 years old. Just, it's like when George Steinbrenner died. I had no idea George Steinbrenner was as old as he was, like 78 when he passed away. But these are just names that you know, they're there all the time. George Steinbrenner, Billy Martin. I hated the Yankees, but these are names you were always there with. Earl Weaver. You know, I'm going into baseball now, but I'm just talking about people in our lives. And then, of course, and then Kissinger finally died recently, but Kissinger lived to be like 177 years old. You know, that guy would never go away. He finally passed away. It's just amazing. All these names and celebrities and politicians and actors and musicians that you grew up with or that were around when you're growing up are just suddenly gone. I mean, who replaces them? I mean, who's got the gravitas to replace them? I mean, not Britney Spears, you know, not you know, P. Diddy. So, you know, there's no Dolly Partons coming up in this age. You know, these are larger than life figures. You know, Tom Cruise is one of the, I would say, larger than life popular figures. You know, I don't want to say actors, but popular figures. But I mean, who beyond that? Who's a popular figure that carries that kind of cachet in today's age? I don't know. Is there anybody, Todd? Can you think of anybody?
No, you're right. And even if it's people that we maybe don't like politically or whatever, maybe we don't even like all their movies or whatever the case may be, there are those people that fit that bill, you know, that's like that icon, you know, the movie stars of the days of old, you know, that you looked at like Redford and people like that. It's like, man, I may disagree with some of your politics, but Robert Redford is who you think about whenever you think of movie star. You know, there are those people that you think about. And of course, Ted Turner, when it comes to business, is somebody you think about as an icon, somebody who's led in that field for so long that this is who you look for as far as whenever you think of that name, that's the icon, if you will. And of course, Ted Turner is one of them.
And we still have a legend that's out there now, and that, of course, is but he's 95, and that is Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood, absolutely amazing, a veteran, a former politician, the mayor of Carmel, California, one of the most prolific and amazing producers in history. One of the best actors. I mean, the range from spaghetti westerns to Every Which Way But Loose to The Bridges of Madison County to Letters from Our Fathers to Get Off My Lawn. I mean, Gran Torino. The guy.
I was gonna say Gran Torino.
Yeah, the guy has got. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, Clint Eastwood. You know, I've always thought he was a good actor, but I've really, really appreciated him the last decade. I've watched the spaghetti westerns over and over again. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. All those things. It's Eli Wallach, Good, Bad, and Ugly. But he's still there. He's 95. But I mean, you know, we don't last forever. And so it's just when these icons go away, if there's no one to replace them, there's kind of a vacuum. And I don't see names like that coming up in popular culture. You know, and sports, I mean, who are the big names in sports now? I mean,
you mentioned McDonald earlier. He seems to be a guy that takes off with a lot of people. I don't know if he's big as like you're trying to illustrate, but he could be. I mean, he's a fairly young guy, and he's that sort of guy that kind of gets politically active with his music. And it's possible here in another 10, 15 years, he might fill that void you're talking about.
Who's that?
Tom McDonald?
Oh, no, I think Tom McDonald is great, but he's a niche kind of guy. He's not going to be a legend. I don't think he's going to be a legend, but some of these guys.
You never know what people are going to turn into. That's the whole thing. I mean, there was a time when people looked at Clint Eastwood and go, yeah, he's just a young actor. He'll get over himself. And here he is these years later, and he was a great. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you can't sell people short. I mean, if you look at the package, you look at Jessica Alba when she did her first TV series, just a young hottie, super hottie, decent actor, not great, but she became a hit actor. But she's a billionaire. She started this products line, and she's a billionaire. It's amazing. It's just she's got great chops for business, but that's where she went. So she kind of got away from acting a bit. Doesn't really do acting anymore. It's just amazing. But some people are just, I don't want to say savants, but just amazing people, the things they can do, the versatility in different fields. And Ted Turner was one of them. I mean, from sports to broadcasting to cable to satellite to, it's amazing. It's amazing what this guy accomplished. And while I don't agree with his politics necessarily, I also didn't like the fact that he bought half of America up. It was kind of annoying. But he did play a major role in saving the American bison, which is an incredible creature. And what a disgrace how we wiped out 50 million of them in the 19th century, and they barely survived. Now they're doing that in Catalina Island. The morons, the conservationists, I don't know what kind of conservationist is, thought they were clever. They darted all the female bison on Catalina Island, which aren't native to Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles. But what happened is that in the 1925 or 24, they put a herd of them there. They brought a bunch of them, like 20 or something like that, so they could film a movie. And then they either let them out or they got loose, and then they came back to film the movie next year. They couldn't find them. They wouldn't cooperate. And so the bison just ranged, and they wound up being a herd of like 650 in the end. But what happened is that 10 or 11 years ago, at least 11 years ago, they decided, well, there's too many of them, so you're gonna give them contraceptives. So they shot them up with darts of contraceptives, and they unintentionally sterilized every female on the island except one who was missing her ear tag. It came off. And so she escaped getting darted, and they thought they got all of them because they darted one the second time. They thought it was her. So she bore one calf, and that's the last one born about 3 years later. And that's it. So the herd is going to die unless they bring in some females to mate with the males who are very elderly now. And just, human beings have such hubris. We think we can do anything we want, and it doesn't work out that way.
Right. Yep. The unintended consequences of, like what you talked about, what they did there in Catalina Island. And now all of a sudden you're going to have a population that's going to die out very quickly because they can't reproduce. I mean, it's going to be very quickly.
Yeah, they're all just they're geriatric bison now. So, but the island is full of invasive species like bison. They also have deer there, mule deer. They want to get rid of. They killed 20,000 or 120 some feral pigs, and they're taking the animals out of left and right. I guess trying to restore the natural habitat, but I guess there may be a debate about whether the bison should be there or not, but. Someone in our chat here said that Keanu Reeves is one of those guys. He made his money and invested. Well, there's another good example of this. And if he gets into producing and goes to more serious things, he might be considered an icon when it comes to entertainment. And that is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds has great range, but he's also brilliant. The guy bought a soccer team. He's got Mint Mobile. He's worth $1 billion plus too. And he's also married to a very attractive lady who used to be on Gossip Girl. So, John, Ted Turner's passing. Did you even know he was still alive?
Actually, honestly, I was thinking about that earlier. No, I did not.
You don't think about this sometimes. A couple people have passed away in past few years. I thought they were still alive. I looked them up oops, they're gone. I missed that one.
Who was Robert Blake. I was talking to a friend earlier today about him. Beretta. And he passed away here 3 years ago, 2023. I didn't realize he had passed. I probably heard it because sometimes you hear it and you forget about it, you get on with life and stuff, and then somebody brings them up and you think they're still alive. And we're losing a lot of them. But hey, you know what? We're not getting any younger, Chris.
Hey, speak for yourself there, man.
I know you're holding out at what, 59? Is that 59 what?
Again.
59 again. Every year is 59 again.
It's a great song. Great song, everybody.
Yeah, but as Joe Texas says that Ryan Reynolds sold Mint Mobile to T-Mobile. That's true, but he made his coin off of it, and he's still a spokesman for it, just not as many commercials. Yeah, I think the coolest spokesman for a cell phone company right now is Mike Rowe, who does those. He does ads for Pure Talk.
Right.
He's got the voice, doesn't he?
He does. That guy's, and he's from the same town I'm from. but I didn't grow up in Baltimore. I was born there and moved out of there, but he grew up there. So Mike Rowe is from Baltimore, and he's pretty. That guy's pretty cool. I like him in so many ways. His dirty jobs. Have you seen those, Todd?
I have, absolutely. And I like his commercials and kind of matter of fact speaking. He's like, that doesn't make sense to me either. Mike Rowe here. And then he just kind of pitches it to you. And you're like, why am I not buying this right now?
Yeah, right. Well, you know, that's how he started out, was like on QVC TV or something like that. He was the guy who had to describe something. So he did an interview. And he said, guy hands him a pencil. He says, take 60 seconds to describe this pencil to sell it. And he goes, oh, no problem. He picks up. He says, here, I have a tractor pencil here. It's about so many inches long. He drives it with this eraser and how well it works. And he takes 60 seconds to describe it. He goes, well, you're hired. And that's how he got to start in this whole thing.
Well, I didn't know that, but he when I first paid a lot of attention to him, he was narrating all those astronomy shows, how the universe works and things like that.
Right, I
love those things. Yeah, it's really good. But he does that pure talk thing. He goes, "You want unlimited text and calling and unlimited data? The other guys will give that to you, $70 a month. But Pure Talk will do that for $35." I'm like, dang, I want that. Give me some of that. $35. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll be coming up in the next hour. We'll talk about some more topics here. I guess we'll touch on Ted Turner again. Also, in the next hour, we're going to talk about the so-called luster fading on Trump's star. Yet he had nearly a clean sweep in the candidates he backed in Indiana in the primaries that took place, and big win for Trump with his MAGA candidates in Indiana winning. We're going to talk about that in the next hour too. But we'll discuss, as I said, a little bit more about the Ted Turner situation. Because Ted Turner, whether you like him or dislike him, this guy had an impact. The Goodwill Games, the advent of cable news, although we may not think that's a good thing anymore, but generally speaking, we thought it was a good thing for a long time, as well as all the networks that he established who survived his passing because they belonged to Time Warner. It's just amazing the impact he had. And he really caught fire in his 40s. And, he just passed away at 87. So for 40 plus years, well, maybe even in his late 30s, I guess is when, but he made a move pretty quickly. But, when Ted Turner did this, it was possible to buy a television station for a few $100,000. Can't even buy a failing station for that price now. It's prohibitively expensive to try to get into that market now. But he came at the right time. He had the right vision, and he made it happen.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Especially as cable was about to just come on the scene, and people just wanted to consume entertainment in their homes at that point. You had Betamax, you had VHS, and all this stuff. You had the rise of home video rentals and Blockbuster and all these other companies, the mom and pops. And of course, he capitalized at the right time to be like, hey, I could buy all these movies, put them on late at night on these channels, and I can make a heck of a lot of money through advertising. The shows cost me next to nothing, like you talked about. And that's brilliant.
Remember the controversy about him colorizing all those classic movies?
Right. Yeah. But he basically said, I'm giving you another option, another way to view it, for the modern audience who's used to color.
And that's going to do it for this hour, folks. We'll see you after the news.
Broadcasting from 200 Main Street in the beautiful and historic Masonic Building. This is WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Streaming live at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Ron Warner. President Trump is calling on Iran to make an agreement or face further attacks.
Posting on Truth Social, Trump said Operation Epic Fury will come to an end along with the U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz once, as he puts it, Iran agrees to what has been agreed to, which is perhaps a big assumption. He didn't go into specifics, but warned that if they don't agree, in his words, the bombing starts, and it will be, sadly, at a much higher level and intensity than it was before. I'm Michael Kastner.
A beam from the Twin Towers is being displayed in West Sayville on Long Island as part of a nationwide tour leading up to the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks.
A 16,000-pound steel beam recovered from the rubble at Ground Zero is being brought to 35 cities through the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Frank Siller is the chairman of the foundation.
So we bring this piece of steel around because I want people to feel the sacrifice that was made on 9/11 and the sacrifice that's been made ever since.
Many came out to West Sayville Monday to see and feel the beam. bringing tears to some like Elizabeth, who lost a relative on 9/11.
Very moving. It's extremely important that we never forget.
Next, the beam heads to Shanksville, Pennsylvania Thursday at the Flight 93 National Memorial. In New York, I'm Scott Pringle.
Material dumped at a Washington, D.C. golf course after the demolition of the east wing of the White House reportedly contains toxic elements.
The National Park Service requested an analysis of the debris after it began arriving at the East Potomac golf links in October. The engineering firm hired for the analysis reportedly found lead, chromium, pesticides, and other chemicals in the debris at levels that exceeded laboratory reporting limits. The Trump administration's being sued by preservationists and other groups trying to stop any future redevelopment of the East Potomac course. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted, it works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated. Rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
NH.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
Memorials of distinction for people who care, John. Gate City Monument, once again. Well, welcome back, everybody, here for the second hour of the Common Sense Conservatives on the 6th of May, 2026. Yes, and we were talking about the passing of Ted Turner last hour, along with the shooting incident in Washington, D.C., near the motorcade of J.D. Vance, a few other items. But now let's turn our attention to the MAGA movement. The press are loving telling the story, John, that Trump is wounded. The war is unpopular. Prices are rising. Gas is too expensive, even though it's only 25% more than what it was before he took over. But they're going on and on about this, and that it's going to be a terrible season for Trump and candidates he endorses. Yet at least 5 of the 7 candidates that he endorsed, in fact, overthrowing some long existing members in the Republican primaries, won in Indiana. John, what do you make of that?
Well, that's Trump, man. Everybody, he's been Todd. By the way, you're muted if you need to know. Yeah, he he's been backing a lot of candidates this year, and they've been raking it in and winning them, and so it comes to no surprise, I guess. But it's a big turnaround from previously when he backed people in 2020 and such, and was it 2020 and no 2022? I'm sorry. Anyway, they weren't winning so much on the way he was backing them for some reason, but this time around, man, I think people are favoring Trump. I think they like his agenda. They want to protect his agenda. Hopefully that's the case, because this is a midterm election and we do need to keep the House, both House and Senate, so that we don't have any obstructions to Trump, because it'll be a miserable 2 years if we don't keep it. And by the way, as a side note to this, and I don't think Trump backed him. I'm not sure. I never heard of Trump backing him, but Vivek Ramaswamy may be Ohio's next governor. I don't know if you heard or not.
Yeah, I saw that. That's probably likely to be the case. So even the New York Times has to admit that Trump still has staying power, even as President Trump's popularity sags amid an unpopular war and soaring gas prices. His success Tuesday at ousting a group of Republican state lawmakers in Indiana who had crossed him showed that he continued to hold a vice-like grip on the critical core of the Republican base. For all the talk of divisions within the MAGA movement over the war in Iran, the results in Indiana Tuesday showed that Mr. Trump can still inspire the kind of voters who will turn out to vote when he asked them to. In this case, it was for revenge. The challengers Trump backed defeated at least 5 of the 7 Republican incumbents in the Indiana legislature who had defied his call to draw new congressional maps ahead of the midterms. Victories in low turnout Republican primary do not mean that the Republican fortunes are improving ahead of the midterms. The party still faces an uphill battle to keep control of Congress. But in these races, Trump and his allies were able to vastly outspend the incumbents and weaponize the bully pulpit for the presidency over little-known state lawmakers. Trump posed for photos in the Oval Office with most of the challengers, giving them powerful visuals to drive home their alliance with the White House. It can be hard to be an incumbent, yet the results on Tuesday were so lopsided that one state senator lost by more than 50 percentage points. The results reinforce what has remained unshakable truth over the decade Trump's domination in national politics. His sway over a significant part of the Republican base is immovable. You are next. Chris Lavasita, Mr. Trump's co-campaign manager in 2024, warned Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky, a Republican who's battled with Trump in social media posts early Wednesday. Trump wants to oust Massie in a primary later this month, and Mr. Lavasita is leading an anti-Massie super PAC in Kentucky. Wow. While Trump's overall approval rating has fallen to 39%, they were gleeful when his ratings were 43%. They said he's never getting above 43%, among the lowest ever in presidency. That's a 4% drop. Not much of a drop, given the fact that people are, short-sighted and they're just whining about the price of gasoline because they don't see the fact that you won't get any gasoline if you don't exist after having burned into a cinder by an Iranian nuclear weapon launched from a cargo ship that travels off the coast of the Chesapeake Bay and torches New York City, Philadelphia, D.C., and Baltimore within minutes. People really don't get it.
I remember when Bill Clinton's ratings plummeted down into the 30s, and I remember when it happened to Barack Obama, Bill Clinton was over the pat on the back, says, "Don't worry about it. This happens from time to time." This just happens, guys. I mean, sometimes the economy tanks a little bit, and approval ratings for the president goes down. And a lot of times the president don't have a whole lot of say over what's happening with the economy. There's other things happening. In this case, the Iran deal might be affecting things, but this is a long game. This isn't a short game. This is a long game. We're in Iran for a reason. And if you think we're there just to free Iranians, you're nuts. If you think we're there just to save Israel, you're nuts. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than you realize.
Yeah, and if you try to broker a deal just to get some gas prices to go down for a temporary basis, you're going to be dealing with Iran, nuclear-powered Iran or nuclear-armed Iran, as the Colonel just mentioned, down the road. And of course, they'll be more emboldened if you don't take the head of the snake off now. I mean, just while we have the opportunity, let's go ahead and eviscerate the snake, be done with it. And that way we will have cheap gas for the long term, and we'll also have peace in a non-nuclear or armed Iran. So continue. Let's complete the mission here.
Do you guys think that Trump's going to go in and finish off this regime? Because it seems to me he's playing diplomacy right now, and it's more like for optics, to show people, hey, look, I'm trying to work with these guys. I really want to work it out with these guys. But in the end, they're not trying. They're not reaching out to Trump. They're not meeting Trump in the middle at all. They're not even. They're over here trying to still hit tankers that are going by and take out with their tiny little flotation devices. They're trying to take out large ships. And it's kind of comical. I mean, this comedy doesn't write itself. I mean, this comedy writes itself. So, do you think that Trump's pretty much going to say, okay, this is it. This is the cutoff point. We're going in. We're going to finalize this, and we're going to take these guys out, and pretty much give the Iranians a chance to redevelop their own country.
Well, who's going to develop it? Who's going to be in charge? We've had nearly 50 years of scumbags, violent terrorists running this country, and with political repression. I mean, unless it's expats who return from abroad, who's going to run Iran after this? It's kind of like, are we really comfortable with the woman who was the deputy to Nicolas Maduro running Venezuela? I guess Trump is. I'm not. She should be in prison too. But there she is running the country.
It seems to me the problem we have with that is the Kurds seem to be the aggressors, and they're the ones that are standing up against the IRGC. And usually those who fight and become victorious, they get to decide. You know what I'm saying? They pretty much take over and start running things. If the rest of the Iranians don't stand up with them, they're probably not going to have a whole lot of say-so, are they?
Well, there aren't that many Kurds in Iran that they could run the country. I mean, as a group, they inhabit a large area, which includes a little bit of Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and a bit of Iran. But they're a rather small minority in Iran. So the Kurds aren't going to run it. But it's an open question. But the bigger open question right now is who the heck is running Iran right now, Todd? We don't even know. We're down to the fourth tier of leadership.
Well, is it the Secretary of State? Is he over there running it, or is it J.D. Vance, or who's in charge? I'm wondering. It's certainly not the Ayatollah's son, right? Didn't he get killed too, or
nobody knows
the situation there? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what happened to him. There was reports that he ran to Russia because he needed medical treatment. We haven't heard anything since.
No, I don't know what's happened to that guy, and frankly, I don't care. It's but I'm more concerned about the fact that. And I obviously don't have full insight because we're not ready on the plans, but I've got to say that I'm a bit disappointed in some of the operational approaches that CENTCOM took in waging this campaign. For instance, I've already talked about this, not capturing Karg Island from the outset and not putting a blockade in as soon as we sank most of the Iranian Navy. I get not putting a blockade in when the Iranian Navy is still active and can endanger your ships, but once you sank them all, what are we waiting on? We waited like a month, 5 weeks before we decided to do a blockade. You know, the Iranians were selling oil all over the world, particularly to China, making billions of dollars fueling their corrupt regime in the meantime. If you want to starve them off, if we had that 5 week head start, then they would probably be on the verge of collapsing now. But now we've got to wait. And this is not good. This is not good. It harms the global economy. This thing could have been over, potentially, but now it's not. And as far as the enriched uranium, where is this special forces team going in and taking this stuff? Loading in the back of a C-130, you know? I mean, come on. I mean, why aren't we just going after it? Why are we just pussyfooting around here? That's my question, Todd.
Yeah, if we have the opportunity to seize it, or at least the bulk of it, why would we not go ahead and do that? Take it and dare them to try to stop us from doing it. Once we have boots on the ground right there, they're not going to stop you from taking as much or as little as you want.
I don't know if it's the ghost or specter of Desert One disaster that we're afraid to put troops in Iran. Maybe that plays a role because how devastating that was.
Would you explain that during the Carter administration real quick about Delta Force and all that, if you don't mind, for some of the listeners who don't know?
Sure. And that's why Delta Force came about, if I recall correctly, because of the failures of Desert One. So we had a mission to go in and rescue the hostages, and these helicopters, poorly coordinated effort, not really well thought through, although those participating who have survived it may disagree. But Desert One was an epic disaster. These helicopters crashed into each other in the dust out there. It was whipped up the sand, and we had casualties and had to destroy aircraft in place, and then we fled, and we never did rescue the hostages. And this was an inept operation that Carter authorized, and apparently, I don't know that it was well thought through, but this led to the creation of the Delta Force as a consequence of that ineptitude. So, you know, maybe the specter of that is what's in the minds of some people, but we're also talking about something that happened 46 years ago. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Since then, Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, all of these government departments and agencies have perfected these things and have done it many, 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 many times to great success, to the point where obviously the American people wouldn't even know, you know, whether you told them a story or not, whether it was true or not, because they have so many successes under their belts. So my thing is we should be to the point where we can trust these special operators, especially the ones that are at that tier 1 level, who are just the best of the best. And that's not just a saying. These are some of the greatest operators in the history of the world.
Well, in fact, I was invited to become an intelligence officer for Task Force 160th, which we couldn't even disclose. That was classified at one time, but that's now a matter of public record. Those guys, Task Force 160th with the Little Birds, I was invited to be the intelligence officer, and of course, you have to qualify. You have to do some. You don't have to go through the special qualification course, but you go through the dunk tank at Fort Rucker. You do all that stuff. The reason I didn't do it is because they wanted to be the intelligence officer at a battalion. I'd already been a battalion and a brigade intelligence officer.
Yeah,
and in the Army,
promotion.
Yeah, in the Army, you can't keep doing the same thing, or you're a one-trick pony and you'll never get promoted. And while, I mean, my goal wasn't about promotion, it was about serving. If you don't get promoted, you can't continue to serve. It's up or out. So I made the decision to go to Italy instead and serve as a commander over there of a counterintelligence unit, which led to some other great things. But what I want to say about that is that the things that our special forces do on a daily basis, the people have no idea whatsoever the missions. These missions remain classified, the things they do every single day. That's why I'm not just, some guy sitting around eating Cheetos and saying, why aren't we using special forces to go after this uranium? Or why did we do it from the outset before we even started the bombing? It's coming from an informed position, not just somebody pontificating. My point here is that the approach to this campaign, in my view, had some flaws. And I said it from the outset. I don't understand why Carg Island was continued allowed to operate. And now, how can Iran, with no Navy, just a couple little speedboats, shut down the Strait of Hormuz? And I know people are going to say they have drones. Well, you can stop drones. It's called jamming. If they can't get a signal, they can't be directed. Now, if they're autonomous and you can pre-program, that's different. But they haven't got much in the way of that. And you can also shoot them down. And those Aegis gun systems on our carrier strike fleets, those things can take down targets a long way out before they even get in that close to these. So, quite frankly, I think the escort mission wasn't thought through. I think Carg Island wasn't thought through. And I think that the uranium wasn't thought through. Now, that's easy for me to be Monday morning quarterback, but those who will go back and watch my content from the outset of this, these are things that we're talking about, with the exception of going after the uranium. But all the rest of the stuff, I've been saying since the beginning, since this thing started. And I find it very frustrating, Todd, that we are in a situation now where people are acting as if America is impotent on this whole situation. We're not, but for some reason we're showing restraint. And it isn't clear why we're showing this kind of restraint.
Yeah, and like you said, it could be because of Desert One. It could be a situation where, whenever we invaded Iraq and went all the way to Baghdad in 2003, what was the out plan there? Maybe they're trying to think through every game plan here. If we do X, Y, Z, what's going to be the repercussions, and maybe some of those repercussions that they don't want to have to face. Of course, Trump has talked about being against the Iraq invasion, etc. And maybe he's afraid that this is going to be compared to that politically, and maybe that's one of his holdbacks.
Perhaps, I'm not sure. Any thoughts, John? What do you think? Why Trump is being so reserved and I would say patient?
Well, as I said before, it might be a little bit for optics because of the way people are coming down on him about things. He wants to show that he's going to be diplomatic about it, and it's probably in his best interest to do that, to try to be diplomatic about it, because if you just go in there and grind into it and wipe them out and do the worst you can do, then you didn't give them a chance, then you're going to be criticized in the long run. So it might be kind of a little political cover that way. The thing about it is, guys, is we're not savvy to the inside information, right? We're not sitting in his war room. We're not sitting there listening to what his advisors, his generals are telling him. So there could be things going on in there. Also, the RERGC themselves, and that's our biggest threat right there right now, they're mobile. I mean, they got a central command. Yeah, we can take out their central command, but they also have a mobile command, right? So we take out their central command, they'll just mobilize, and now what are we going to do? So it could be a little bit of both. It could be all three. I don't know.
Well, this is also a military that couldn't defeat Iraq over the course of a decade of war and sent barefooted young kids through minefields to set off mines. So, right. We shouldn't be struggling against a military like this. I'm just saying. Not that we're struggling, but it should be no question. So, Todd, let's talk about Tennessee, where redistricting is taking place. If you look at the map of Tennessee, and this is one of the shortcomings of radio, unfortunately, so I'll try to describe this. But Tennessee has 9 congressional districts, and they have one really weird-shaped district that is the 5th congressional district, and it skirts just below Nashville and squirts all over the place in different directions, right. None of it making any sense. And right. It is majority Republican, but just by 10%. Whereas right. Most of the state, except for the Memphis area, is overwhelmingly Republican with a 20-point advantage or more. With a new map, your district, I think you're in the 1st district, are you not?
Correct, 1st district, yeah, Northeast.
Yes. Northeast, first district. Your district remains unchanged. The second district remains unchanged. But the third district, which makes no geographic sense, it's got this little area in the southeast corner, Pigeon Forge, and then it's got this narrow little gap that's only a couple miles wide and explodes up into this look like nuclear mushroom above that between the 6th and 2nd district. And it makes no sense whatsoever. That is now reformed into a much more geographic making sense. Also, the 6th district makes more sense. The 4th district has been recarved, and it's much smaller than it was. It makes much more geographic sense. The 9th district has been shifted from Memphis to southern Tennessee, and it does reach up towards Nashville, which I think is a bit high. But all of these make sense to me except for the 5th district. That's the only one that's a little odd. It looks like a little bit of gerrymandering here. But the rest of them actually make geographic sense based on Tennessee's population. But what this does is it eliminates the threat of losing a Republican seat and takes away a Democratic seat for sure in Memphis. Thoughts on it, Todd?
Well, recently, just before the last gerrymandering or the census, we had 2 members of the House of Representatives. Of course, the redistricting that they most recently had drew at least one of them out of existence around the Nashville area. That's why you have such a weird-looking district. You left just enough Democrats in like 2 or 3 different districts, split them up, so that way they couldn't have one stronghold in one congressional district. So this would basically essentially eliminate the Shelby County stronghold for Democrats if it goes through. We'll see. But a lot of people, even on the right, are asking the questions: how much is this going to cost us? And at the same time, if we're against it when Democrats are doing it, like in Virginia, for example, we were crying foul, but all of a sudden we're going to do it now. And I think in Virginia, it was shut down through the courts. Is ours going to be shut down just the same? And at what cost to the taxpayers for this emergency session?
Well, that's a fair question. But what I have to say, let me read this from the New York Times. Democratic lawmakers whose opposition means little under a Republican supermajority in the state's General Assembly and black leaders across Tennessee have compared the effort to carve up the 9th congressional district to Jim Crow-era voter suppression tactics. They've accused conservatives of a power grab that undermines black voters in Memphis who have long favored Democrats. Well, here's the problem I have with that. In my view, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is unconstitutional. It allowed for the intentional creation of districts to ensure that there were black members of Congress. Why are black people more equal than Asians, Native Americans, or Hispanics or whites?
Right.
They don't deserve a district, and they don't need a district. I'm sorry. Who are the mayors of America's largest cities? Los Angeles, Karen Bass. Chicago, Brandon Johnson. New York City, Zoran the Moran. He's not black, but he's a minority. But most of our major, Muriel Bowser in D.C. and Atlanta, the list goes on. All of these cities have black mayors. How many of them actually have black majority populations? Not Chicago. Baltimore, yes.
Right.
D.C. used to be, but no longer. Now it's no longer. Now it's whites the majority in D.C. Yet they elect black people. If black people be elected mayors, they can sure as heck be elected like Tim Scott by white voters to be senators and congressmen.
Right. Well, you think about this in Florida, where they're going to probably elect an African American to be their next governor. So let's not pretend that black people can't get elected as Republicans throughout the state in the Southeast, for crying out loud. They can, and they will.
Well, I mean, look, the Voting Rights Act is racist, and it's not equal protection under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. It gives some Americans more rights than other Americans.
Right.
You shouldn't be guaranteed a seat because you're white. You shouldn't be guaranteed a seat because you're black. You should compete for a seat, and people should like your ideas or be dumb enough to vote for you, whichever or both. But it shouldn't be a question. Yeah, well, I mean, seriously, it's absolutely crazy that this thing ever existed. How affirmative action, which is anything but affirmative, ever became the law of the land is beyond me. It's racist to the core. And this nonsense that people mistreated, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Sure.
It's unjustifiable. It's never been justifiable. Well, we have to right historical wrongs. I'm sorry. I wasn't around for Jim Crow. I didn't implement slavery. My ancestors ended slavery. 7 of my 8 great-great-grandfathers fought in the American Civil War for the Union. The 8th one didn't fight the Confederacy. He was too old to fight. He was in his late 40s. So I don't want to hear this nonsense. And oh, by the way, I've been discriminated against because of my skin as a majority American on more than one occasion when it came to promotion in the U.S. military. Promotions held up because of liars, and not just for me, but for the entire promotion list. And, the list goes on and on. This racism needs to stop. If you want to level the playing field, you level the playing field by ensuring equal access to opportunity. That's what you do. So if you have schools that are underfunded, you find a way to balance the scale so they get the same level of funding as other schools. so they can compete fairly.
Right.
And you uphold the standards for everyone. You don't lower the standards like they do in South Africa to 30% and consider that a passing grade. Do you know in South Africa, Todd, that they consider 30% a passing mark for students? And the reason they did that is because black students perform so abysmally. And the reason black students perform so abysmally is because cultural standards don't value education and hold parents to account for their kids' outcomes. Whereas with other South Africans, they typically do much better because their parents are involved or because they value education. It's shocking to see people lower standards. We don't get better societies. We get dumber
Right.
societies with lower standards.
Yeah, and people who are educated, who value education or whatever, or who are successful, because of their education, shouldn't hide from that. You shouldn't have to go around trying to, oh shucks, well, I don't think I'm any better, this and that. I think you should challenge people to try to be the best they possibly can be. I'm not saying everybody's going to be an Einstein or a rocket scientist, whatever the case may be, but everybody should challenge themselves to do the best they possibly can be instead of just, settling for, less than average. You know what I'm saying? Do the best you possibly can. And of course, challenge other people to do the same thing.
100%. I'm with it entirely there. Holden Caulfield, one of my viewers, said, well, when you fill up a semi, an 18-wheeler, and John can attest to this, you pay over $1,000 filled up, you feel it. Yeah, look, I got you. But there's a reason why diesel costs so much money. It's twofold. Number one, we haven't built any refineries in decades. We're just now bringing on the first new refinery in like 50 years in the United States. And the second reason is because they forced the removal of sulfur from diesel, and that drove up the price. When I was a kid, diesel was cheaper than gasoline. It was dirt cheap. That's why people are buying diesel Volkswagens.
It's more than that. Because of the required refinement of removing the sulfur from diesel fuels, we have less diesel fuels in the United States because a lot of the refineries aren't doing that, and they're shipping the diesel out to foreign countries, which is depleting the supply and creating the demand. So it's government influence that way. It wouldn't normally be that way if they didn't influence that way.
Right. If the markets were allowed to operate freely, then investors would fund companies that build new refineries that process diesel. We would sell it here for a profit instead of the government forcing it to be sold abroad. And then supply and demand would be matched, and you wouldn't see this disconnect between the price of gasoline and diesel. But diesel is going for over $6 a gallon. I understand. Look, I get it. The trucking industry, look, I mean, it's not like we don't feel it as consumers. How do we get all our crap? Trucks carry it around. It's not like we use the rail network for this stuff. That's for raw materials for the most part. But, the trucks are the ones that deliver all this stuff every day, and their costs go up and our prices go up.
But make no mistake about it, Chris. Let's face it. We don't have a diesel shortage in this country. Do you see a diesel shortage? I don't see trucks sitting there parked somewhere going, wow, I wish I could find diesel somewhere. There's diesel still being sold. The trucks are still moving. It's not a diesel shortage.
No, I didn't say it was a diesel shortage.
I know you didn't. But what I'm saying is the fuel prices went up on the principle of supply and demand. So the demand increased in the world because the supply went down in the world. But we don't see the demand increase in the United States. There's no shortage in the United States. And you see the prices jack up as soon as there's an Iranian problem. And when this problem is over, you're going to see it kind of trickle down. It won't just drop down. These guys are jacking up the prices, and they're fleecing the American people.
Well, that I don't know. It may very well be the case, but I do know for a fact.
Apparently they are.
But I do know for a fact that the EPA standards that have been applied to low sulfur and diesel are the major reason why the stuff costs $6 a gallon or $5 or $4 a gallon now, because it costs so much more to refine it than it used to. But to be fair, it is kind of nice to drive around the road and not see those black smoke coming up out of smokestacks and all these trucks all the time. I don't know if we're all willing to pay extra for it, but the bottom line is that has been the major cause here, hasn't it, John? Is that the EPA requirement to reduce the sulfur in diesel?
Yeah, the sulfur would create a problem as far as environment goes. It may have an impact. As far as these DEF systems, which are very, very expensive and break down frequently and cost the trucking companies a lot of money. See, nobody talks about this. When you know somebody that's had a diesel exhaust fluid breakdown and it continues to go on, it becomes a continuing problem to him at the sum of $40,000, $40,000 just to run a DEF system on a big truck. And these things are always having problems. They freeze at 17 degrees. You know how many trucks are out there running at below zero? And they're having DEF problems. And so we're getting mobility problems. You get all sorts of problems with these and increased cost of doing business. And these trucking companies, I promise you, are struggling out there. You're seeing these companies are tanking out there because they can't cover their cost of doing business.
Yeah. You know, and so people might say, well, why don't these trucks just run on gasoline? Well, there's a reason for that. Diesel is denser and has a higher energy output per liter or per gallon than you get from gasoline. So you get much more in the way of mileage out of diesel and much more energy out of it than you get out of the same amount of gasoline.
It's how it burns and expands. Yeah, it continues to, as like gasoline does, it continues to expand in the burn chamber, right? But diesel has more power behind it. It gives you more torque and stuff like this. When you're pulling a grade at 6% and you got a diesel engine, it makes a big difference as opposed to pulling a grade with a gasoline motor, pulling that kind of weight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's why we rely on diesel for the trucking industry and so many other things. You know, look, I mean, the cargo ships burn kerosene, essentially. That's very dirty, polluting. But that's all these cargo ships around the world, including all the ones stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, are burning burning kerosene, essentially. That's do you know that those
and they're probably getting
ships,
gallons per mile, Chris.
Oh yeah, no, instead of the other way around. But those ships produce over 3% of the carbon emissions on the entire planet. Just the cargo ships delivering our goods and services around the world to ports. 3% of the entire carbon output comes from the global shipping fleet. People don't know that, but it comes from burning kerosene.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Planes
kerosene's
too.
nasty.
Airplanes also burn kerosene, from my understanding. And
you mean avgas? It sounds a lot sexier when you say avgas.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm saying it wrong. But I think it is like the more kerosene or something like that, more or less. It may be more refined. I don't know. But yeah, they burn a lot of fuel too.
Absolutely. So that's Todd's favorite word. So I thought I'd use it for once. Absolutely.
Right. That's funny.
No, but the reality here is that that comment by our viewer watching it online, listening to the program, it's correct. I mean, it's very expensive to fill up a truck. When you pay $1,000 to top off a truck, and how far is that going to get you? Several hundred miles, and that's about it. You're going to have to do it all over again. It depends
on your truck and your driving habits, but you can get trucks out there getting about 6.5 miles per gallon up to, some guys brag about 9.
So let's say you're getting 7 miles per gallon. I don't know how much fuel you're carrying on board. I mean, what kind of range is that for a semi that's fully loaded?
That also depends, too, on how you spec your truck, but a lot of trucks will carry about 200 gallons. If you're getting 6.5 miles per gallon on average, you're talking about 650 miles per 100 gallons, so 1,200, 1,300 miles per both tanks. You just filled it up at $6 a gallon. At 200 gallons, that's $1,200.
So that's $3,600 coast to coast in a good day or a good week.
Yeah, right.
So put that into consideration when you think about what the cost of goods and services are. And no wonder Amazon's riding around with these goofy electric vehicles all over the place.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially if their delivery center is within a certain range of the warehouse, right?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I come out here and I hear this little whirring because it's electric coming through the neighborhood.
And that's just to give a person walking to know that there's a vehicle nearby so you can hear it, so you don't walk out in traffic.
Exactly. But I mean, I feel like I'm in the Demolition Man. 3 demerits, John Spartan. John Spartan, that's inappropriate language, John Spartan.
Yeah, you have been fined 3 credits for the violation of the verbal morality code. Yeah.
He smashes the robot driver off. And
the 3 seashells. He doesn't know the 3 seashells.
Oh, what do you do with the seashells?
And they laugh at it.
Oh my gosh.
3 seashells.
That was a very young Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Good, hilarious movie, though,
It was hilarious, yeah.
Yeah,
and then
Rob Schneider was in his hilarious. He was in Form in those movies, I think, in the 80s and 90s. Rob Schneider was hilarious. He's still funny. I don't remember. Yeah, he was. He was a little snarky police officer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I'm thinking of him in Judge Dredd, where he was inside the robot and he was rewiring it and he got arrested.
Right. Yeah.
And then Dredd gets stripped of all his regalia. The judge has to take the long walk in the desert, and he's on a prison transport out there. And Rob Schneider's sitting next to him, and he puts his hand up because he always has the thing over his face. He only sees his mouth. Then he goes, Dredd?
Yeah. I am the law.
I am the law. Oh, that movie's something else. Oh, man. All those movies. Anyway, yeah. No, I forgot that Rob Schneider was a cop in that movie. That's right. Yeah. Sandra Bullock was just adorable in that movie. Too funny. And what's his name was the evil villain, the guy that got arrested for all the tax fraud. What's his name there?
The guy played Blade, Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Anyway, John Spartan. He kept getting fined.
Right. Yeah. I liked Wesley Snipes. He was in the most recent. What was it? The Wolverine versus was it Deadpool versus Wolverine, whatever it's called. But he was played in there, and of course there was a line. He kind of looks at the camera. He goes, it's the multiverse where they have all the different versions of all these different characters or whatever. He kind of deadpans the camera. He goes, "There's always been one blade, and there always will be just one blade." And he just kind of looks at the camera like, "There's not going to be another guy playing this role. This is me, baby." So,
well, that was actually a good. Of course, Ryan Reynolds was in that. Reynolds was in that, and then Chris Christopherson played Whistler. The Blade series was pretty darn good, actually. I mean, I never saw it when it came out. I saw it years later. I'm like, these are good movies. But Ryan Reynolds, I mean, the serious role there. Then he plays the buffoon in comedies and stuff like that. It's that guy. He might be one of those iconic, guys at the end of all this when he's older. So we'll see. But Ryan Reynolds, he keeps making, it's. I don't know. Some of these guys like Elon Musk and Ted Turner and Ryan Reynolds, they just, whatever they touch, they spin into gold,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's because they understand time management. It's not just about money. It's about time management.
Okay. I saw that movie Time Cop with Jean-Claude.
Cop. No, these guys just don't waste their time. I mean, we're talking about Donald Trump here a while back ago, right? The man sleeps 4 hours a night. He just, his idea is, I'll be getting plenty of rest when I'm dead, but right now I'm going to utilize all the time I can to make
like? What's it like to sleep for 4 hours? I'm not used to that.
I don't know that's about the average. Well, no, actually, I do know. I used to run on 4 hours a day, nonstop.
So you know who I don't feel for, but you know who I empathize with right now? That's people who have Winnebagos. They must be sucking really badly because they burn gasoline. I think most of them, and those things burn a lot of gas to go a few miles.
Those are some big motors in them, yeah.
Yeah. That's got to cost a fortune. But then I suppose you can afford a $600,000 Winnebago. You're not worried about $7 a gallon for gasoline.
I did see a couple of trailers being towed behind pickup trucks today. I'm like, well, yeah, it's getting that time of year, but he's going up to their camps and stuff. But you bring up a good point. I wonder how many I'll be seeing this year. I wonder how many people right now are going, I think I'm going to forgo camping. I'm not hooking up that camper trailer. I can't afford the gasoline.
A lot of people are already making decisions about their travel plans. I booked my flight and got a pretty good flight to Florida Friday on Breeze Airways, which I haven't.
I was going to ask if it wasn't Spirit Airlines, was it?
No, it's not Spirit. It's definitely not Spirit. Spirit is a dead spirit at this stage, and we can blame. Let's talk about that. Let's shift that gear to that. We can blame the Biden regime for that because the demented Biden regime falsely claimed that the merger between JetBlue and Spirit, in interest of full disclosure, I am a shareholder of JetBlue Airlines, but the merger of JetBlue and Spirit was disastrous. It would lead to higher costs and less flight opportunity and fewer options for the consumer. What a crock. Now Spirit's gone and 17,000 people don't have jobs, and there are people who can't fly from one place to another because the only airline operating in some of these airfields was Spirit Airlines. And the choices are down. And the big ones have already swooped in and they promised to keep the same fare for existing ticket holders. But once those tickets are burned out, they're going to charge you their full fare and you're screwed. Now, on the upside, a few airlines have already stepped in. For instance, JetBlue stepped in to some routes in New Jersey to pick up routes to the Caribbean that have been there for Spirit. But the bottom line here, and Frontier picked up a few flights a few months ago in anticipation of Spirit going under. But the bottom line here is that they did exactly the opposite. They used the power of the federal government to destroy an airline to protect the big four. So the big boys stayed powerful and kept all the market share. That's what the Biden regime did. They misused the power of the federal government and they lied about what they're doing. They did the exact opposite of what they claimed they were doing, and they did it intentionally to destroy Spirit Airlines, and they should be prosecuted for this.
I think I can relate to that. We talk about that a lot in the trucking industry, that a lot of the laws and regulations are passed that favor the large corporate entities, and the small carriers suffer terribly as a result. They talk about competitive pricing and stuff like that, or antitrust, and they want these corporations to compete, but they want them to compete at a diminishing loss. I mean, they want them basically to run on nothing.
Yeah,
you can't do it
anymore.
You.
So the states with the three highest prices for gasoline right now are, take a guess what they are. John, you probably have a good feel for this.
California's got to be number one.
It is. Who's second?
Man, let's see. New York, New Jersey.
No.
Maybe. No.
It's all on the West Coast.
Oh, then you're talking about Oregon and Washington got to be in there somewhere.
Yep, they're there. And then comes Nevada. And the other two are Alaska and Hawaii. And so Hawaii makes sense because there's nothing there. They got to ship it all out there. I get that. California is awash in oil, yet has the highest price for gasoline, $6.16. And what most people don't know, it's because California's environmental regulations force multi-blends, and the amount of money they can make, they have to make so many blends, it costs so much money to refine stuff there. And all their taxes have driven the price of gasoline to $6.16 a gallon. Washington State, run by leftist, once again, $5.75 a gallon, second highest. Then comes Hawaii at $5.66. Oregon at $5.33, and then Nevada at $4.23. But let me put this in perspective. Idaho, in the middle of freaking nowhere, right? In the middle of nowhere, not exactly an oil-producing state, costs $4.54 for a gallon when Nevada is $5.23, Washington is $5.75, and Oregon is $5.33. All of them nearly $1 or $1 more than Idaho. And in Montana, which has no oil at all, $4.44. In North Dakota, which does have a lot of oil, it's $4.14. And Wyoming, which has oil, $4.39. So absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is all because of government intrusion in the marketplace, not because of the true value of petroleum or the cost of refining it. The cost of refining it, it definitely plays a role, but it's certainly not the reason. Well, the cost of refining plays a role in California, but that's an artificial cost. When I lived in California the last time, I was at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, not exactly a cheap place to live. I came from Iowa, where I was teaching, and I went there, and I was paying, I wasn't living in Iowa, excuse me, but when I went through Iowa, it was $1.87 a gallon in Iowa for gasoline. When I got to California, it was over $5 a gallon because of their stupid laws, their stupid environmental stuff. Yep. If they'd all quit moving to places where people shouldn't live, where there's no damn water in Los Angeles and polluting the sky because there's too many people living there, well, then maybe you wouldn't have all these smog issues. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying, Todd.
Right. It reminds me of the Beverly Hillbillies movie where he's like, well, what's a smog? And Jethro thought for a second. He goes, I reckon it's a small hog. That's why he's the smartest one, right?
I never saw that movie, but I do remember the Beverly Hillbillies.
But some of these folks that are out there running Los Angeles are not much smarter than old Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies, I think.
Well, I do remember that old Jet was out hunting up some food, and he shot, and up came some bubbling crude. Next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. Kid folks said, got to move away from here. California is the place you got to be. So they packed up the Beverly Hills, that is. Millionaires. Swimming pools. Oh, my goodness. What a concept. Someone thought that one through, probably over a couple cases of beer that night. What can we come up with for the new show? How about a bunch of hillbillies moved to Beverly Hills?
Right. Well, back in the day, they had a bunch of rural shows. You had the westerns and all this
Green
stuff.
Acres.
Bonanza. Yeah, and Green Acres. The modern rural area. You know what I mean? And of course, Beverly Hillbillies, Fish Out of Water story.
Petticoat Junction.
And then all of a sudden, they just kind of ended, and then they just went a completely different direction. It was more mysteries and investigative shows like. He's a private detective. He's a PI. He's a detective. This guy's a lawyer, and those shows became prevalent in the 70s, and then in the 80s it was like rogue detectives, if you will, like Knight Rider and A-Team and all those types of shows. Were big. So it's interesting how it goes into phases. The entertainment genre goes into cycles.
Well, and when they recycle things too, sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't. Recycling MacGyver didn't work, in my view. Recycling Hawaii Five-0 worked for the first season, but then it didn't really work, in my view, after that. But recycling Battlestar Galactica, that was brilliant. The modern version of Battlestar Galactica was great. The original, which is Camp, still holds its own with Lauren Green and Dirk Benedict and those guys. But the new one with that was just amazing, the new one.
The space movies can get away with that because they get new technologies, right? Like when they come up with CGI and things like that, and all of a sudden the special effects were just incredible. So when they recycle, it's kind of like, oh yeah, people get into it.
Well, yes and no. I mean, you can still screw it up with that stuff. I mean, the special effects back then were pretty lame, but you have to admit, you don't have to admit, but I would certainly state that the first three versions of Star Wars that came 30 years later suck. Despite the CGI, the Clone Wars and all that stuff is just ridiculous. It was ridiculous, and of course the introduction of idiotic characters like Jar Jar Binks really ruined that Star Wars franchise, in my view. But let's talk a little more politics before we run out of time tonight. I want to talk about the issue of this Virginia state senator, Louise Lucas. Now, the FBI today searched the office of longtime Virginia state lawmaker who was instrumental in the Democrats' recent push to redraw the congressional maps. State Senator Louise Lucas, a Democrat from Portsmouth, has served in the upper house of Virginia's General Assembly for more than 30 years. She's been president pro temp of the Virginia Senate since 2020. The federal investigation began not during the Trump administration, but during the Biden administration, and is examining possible bribery and corruption related to marijuana dispensary businesses. Wow. So another Democrat caught in corruption, and this is the one who helped redistrict Virginia. Are you surprised, Todd?
Not surprised at all, for sure. But like I said, if we're going to be outraged about what Virginia did, the folks in Tennessee got to realize we're about to do the same thing, right? So let's, if we're going to be outraged with one state, maybe we should be outraged with the other. I don't know. It's just one of those things that's kind of a duality of political movements, if you will. If Dems do it, the Republicans are outraged, but if Republicans do it, somehow they're not as outraged. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty objective on this. I think we all agree that it's morally reprehensible.
Yeah,
when both sides do this.
I think in Tennessee code it says that between reapportionments you cannot, basically essentially gerrymander. Again, you can't redistrict until you're reapportioned at the next census. So I think what's about to happen maybe actually is going to violate Tennessee law anyway. So it'll be struck down based on that.
In Virginia, they violated the existing Virginia law in several ways, including not sufficient time. So that's going to be thrown out, most likely as unconstitutional.
Right.
But
the courts are right to do that.
They should do that. That's what the role of the court is, to determine whether people follow the law, not to legislate from the bench, which so many do. But this isn't legislating from the bench; it's actually adhering to the law. But a federal judge in Minnesota swatted down a challenge to the Immigration Customs Enforcement policy of allowing immigration arrests near schools. Yes, the school districts had sued to stop it, and they don't have the standing. Judge Laura Provenzino, a Biden appointee, said she wasn't giving approval to policy, but she said neither the school system nor Education Minnesota, a teachers union, could show they were injured by last year's policy, making it easier to carry out arrests near sensitive locations. The educators have filed a lawsuit in February amid Trump administration's immigration surge, and just weeks after the arrest of a 5-year-old Liam Conero Ramos and with his school backpack and blue bunny hat making national headlines. They argue that Homeland Security's new willingness to make arrests near schools had left students and staff afraid to attend class. Fridley Public School District, one of the plaintiffs, said its attendance dropped 33% on 2 days in January and had to unenroll some students for chronic absenteeism. Well, good. Criminal aliens shouldn't be in the country. Now we know where they're at. Let's go to Fridley Elementary School and lock them all up and ship them out of the country. Oh, I'm so heartless. Oh, John, I'm so heartless.
I know. I don't understand this whole thing about, I couldn't go to Mexico and just move in, right? I can't even own property in Mexico as an American citizen. But people come into our country and can be illegally here, buy a property, and do whatever they darn well please. I don't understand the sense of logic. We're a nation of laws, and you're supposed to go through certain steps and measures before you start enrolling into schools and start taking over and think you own the place.
Here. I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, okay, so their enrollment dropped by 33%. Maybe you're illegally enrolling students who have no business being in the country, and you're facilitating the criminal invasion of America and the audacity to then sue the federal government for carrying out federal immigration law. I want the people who are in that school district, their names exposed publicly because they're anti-American, nasty SOBs. Todd.
Yeah, well, I own a factory, and my workers are late on a regular basis because they keep setting up speed traps. Why don't you just let my workers speed so that way they can get to work on time? Well, wait a minute. My workers should have to follow the law, right?
Well, Todd, I own a bar, and most of my patrons are 16 and love to binge drink. Why don't you just let the 16-year-olds drink all the alcohol they want? Why are you impacting my business? That's not right.
And this is the argument of the left right now, by the way. So,
yeah, I mean, Todd and I are making light of how stupid their argument is.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. They have.
Here's the better one, guys. You took away my reproductive health by banning abortions. That's not reproduction. That's termination. Right. Whose health are you protecting? Not the child.
Right. No, not the child at all, and of course, not your own mental health as well down the road.
Now, Chris, she didn't want her body ruined by the coming of a new life, and that must be her reproductive health, right? Is that this life is going to give her stretch marks, man. We can't have stretch marks on a woman's belly. Come on, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, hate mail can be directed to John Grosvenor, care of WSMN.
Obviously, Chris doesn't understand sarcasm.
Oh, I do, but somebody won't. Yeah, no, but I mean, look, I mean, the arguments the leftists make are absolutely ridiculous. Gays for Gaza. Oh, that's going to go really well. Stay away from multi-story buildings. Stay away from multi-story buildings if you're gays for Gaza. You know, this whole nonsense about the flotilla who've been detained by the Israelis. Oh, they're kept in inhuman conditions. You see the videos of them doing somersaults and dancing on the boat where they were detained? They're not in inhuman conditions. They are inhuman liars. Anyway,
Right.
But just remember,
Absolutely.
Todd, you ruined the world.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Greta.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But think about it. Gays for Gaza. It's like, let's go to Gaza and see what happens. And all of a sudden, it's like, yes, we have a very tall building. We'd like to show you. Come up here. We want to fellowship
Dude,
with you on top
they,
of this roof.
they don't entice you up in Gaza. They drag you up.
No, I know.
Yeah, they make sure your butt's up there
VIP
the hard
reception
way.
on the roof. Come on, please.
It's a lovely view from up here, and the view on the way down is even better. Yes,
It's a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's much quicker. It's much quicker than the elevator. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
No, but you know, it's like the University of Missouri. I think it was Missouri, or wherever, Black Lives Matter nonsense, where the students pay to live in a dormitory, and the common area is their common area. All the residents get to use it, and the white students, especially the women, support the Black Lives Matter. We're down with the Black Lives Matter. Black lives are more important than anyone else's life. Okay. But anyway, so they all go down there to the common area, and the black student's like, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing here, Whitey? You can't be here. This is Black lives. You're not allowed to be. Okay. And they all just trot off.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's just as dumb as gays for Gaza. Anyway. So.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, try to sway me into supporting Black Lives. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Why not, man? Because it's a racist organization, bro. Open your eyes and look at what they're saying.
That's why I want to support the Southern Poverty Law Center.
But the problem I had with it was that if you said anything against it, the racist attacked you as a racist when they're promoting one group as more important than another group. No, everyone's equal. Everyone's equal. There's no group is better than the other. How you apply yourself, how you behave, how you put your skills to work and your comportment, that's what matters. As Dr. King said, I have a dream that one day my little children will be judged for the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And Black Lives Matter judged 230 million white Americans for the color of their skin. They are racist, vile, repulsive human beings. And anybody who stood behind them, just like these lunatics, Ukraine. You remember that nonsense? They're all Ukraine fans. Where are they at now? Are they running around flags? Are they volunteering to go be mercenaries in Ukraine? Are they donating money? No, because they're all frauds. Because it's the latest thing to be popular for. It reminds me of Seinfeld and Kramer. You're not wearing the flag. Why aren't you wearing the pin? It's AIDS much. You must wear the pin.
Yeah.
And then they beat the crap out of the gay guys because he wasn't wearing the AIDS pin.
Right, yeah, they're not wearing the ribbon.
I mean, that is a perfect description of the Democrats and the left. Right there.
Right.
Watch that episode of Seinfeld, and you got it all. Kramer goes out there, he does the walk to raise money, and he doesn't want to wear the pin, so they beat the crap out of him.
Yeah,
this can't be true, guys. This can't be true because they're pointing fingers at Trump and calling him the Nazi. Remember? He's the Nazi.
Well, speaking of Nazi, those are the same two guys on the Seinfeld show that was on the Soup Nazi episode that stole the armoire. We take the armoire. Who are you to do so we cannot take the armoire? Yeah, same guy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
good point.
Yeah,
anyway, that's
Soup Nazi guys. No soup for you.
No soup for you. Lobster bisque. No soup for you.
No soup for you for 1 year. No, you can't do that to me. I gotta
never come back. Oh my goodness, that show about nothing was so funny, so funny. They're all just schemers, man. Especially George and Elaine. They would do anything to get over. I love when Elaine went to the Yankees ball game and wore an Orioles hat. That was awesome, though.
Yeah.
Being from Baltimore, I really appreciated that episode. But anyway, because she was from Baltimore originally. Anyway, gosh. Well, we've strayed a little far away from politics today, but sometimes we do that.
Sure.
It's always good to let your hair down a little bit. I had a haircut, so I'm not sure what hair I can let down tonight. But anyway, so John, any final thoughts about what's happened this week or what we got upcoming? We got another week ahead of us.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see something coming from Trump here pretty soon with Iran and get something more definitive. I don't have any real deep thoughts to share, unfortunately. I just hope folks out there have themselves a good week. You know what I mean?
Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
Is that Jack Handy? Deep? Oh, raw.
Todd,
yeah,
what about
yeah.
you? It was Saturday Night Live. It was Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
It was.
Right. No, just to be interesting to see how it plays out. After he said, the war's over, but is it over? But I don't know. We're going to see how it plays out. I mean, it may play out in our favor, and Trump comes out smelling like roses. See, this is what I wanted the whole time. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out.
The enriched uranium. Now we're processing it. Yeah, that's right. We're taking advantage of it, and we got all the oil. It's all ours.
That's I think is the thing, isn't it? I mean, we went to Venezuela, we cut China and Russia out of it. Now we're in Iran. I mean,
we are crippling China. We didn't even talk about it tonight. And that said, the biggest loser in all this outside of Iran is going to be China, because China. Now, this is the reason why I had trouble with not cutting off Karg Island, because they still got oil for 6 weeks. If we cut China's oil off 6 weeks sooner, the Chinese would be begging. Now they want to come to the table. They want to be part of negotiations because China's collapsing because they're so dependent on Iranian oil.
They're wicked bad off. I mean, they're losing their labor forces. Now we're taking their energy resources away. By the way, somebody asked earlier, when does Trump meet Xi? And that's going to be on the 14th and 15th of this month.
Okay. Xi Jinping, is that your comment?
Yeah.
Trump's going to China.
Well, that was a delayed trip because of Iran. It was supposed to happen last month. So, yeah. No, look, I mean, the Chinese don't have access to Venezuelan oil for the most part. Angolan production is down, which they rely on, and Iranian production is cut off completely. China needs it. Now, that's going to do it for this week, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Common Sense Conservatives. On behalf of Todd in Eastern Tennessee and John in Nashua, New Hampshire, Chris in Central Pennsylvania. We'll catch you next week right here on the Common Sense Conservatives. Be well.